Spain beat Argentina 1-0 in the World Cup final. Within minutes, some of football's biggest legends were celebrating Argentina's defeat, from Toni Kroos to Zlatan Ibrahimovic. They made it clear they were happy Argentina had lost. But one reaction has people going crazy. Let me catch you up. Toni Kroos, who retired from playing after Euro 2024, posted a two-word reaction on X after Spain dethroned Argentina. Football won. He didn't tag anyone. He didn't need to. Everyone watching knew exactly who that was aimed at. Here's the thing. Kroos wasn't neutral going into this final. Kroos had been rooting for the Spanish team before the finals kicked off. So when Spain actually did it, he wasn't just reacting to a scoreline. He was confirming something he'd already called, and he didn't stop at two words. Kroos went further, laying out exactly why he felt that way. He pointed to how a team could reach a World Cup final and finish the game without a single shot on target, saying that told you everything about the approach they came with, and that a final is meant to be contested by two teams trying to win, not one, attacking while the other simply waits and hopes for penalties. That's not a throwaway jab, that's a full argument, and it lines up with what actually happened on the pitch. We'll get into the stats in a minute, but Kroos wasn't making this up. Argentina became the first team in World Cup final history to fail, to register a single shot across 90 minutes of normal time, finally managing their first attempt of the match, a blocked volley from Messi in the 117th minute of extra time, finishing with 34.9% possession and 25 fouls to Spain's 21 now. Over on Fox Sports, two more legends were saying the same thing in almost the same words. Following Spain's 1-0 victory over Argentina, the Fox Sports duo of Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Thierry Henry praised Spain's tactical execution and defensive performance, which limited Argentina's offensive output throughout the game. Zlatan didn't hold back. Football won today, Ibrahimovic said. The way they play football, the way they played in this tournament. When you watch football, this is what you want to see. Then he turned it around on Argentina. Ibrahimovic also highlighted Argentina's lack of offensive production during the final, credited to the tournament's top defensive unit. He'd actually called this before a ball was even kicked. Working the tournament as a Fox analyst, Ibrahimovic said Spain have everything needed to overcome Lionel Messi's Argentina, pointing out that Spain handled France very well, and believing they could handle Argentina too, since Argentina is not a counter-attacking team. He went on, he believed Spain was going to do their thing, play collectively and dominate that game. He called the game before it happened, then he stood by every word of it after. Henry was right there next to him, and the two of them weren't. The only Fox voices making noise. That night's broadcast pulled in a whole studio's worth of names. Alex Scott, Peter Crouch, Kasper Schmeichel, Mo Edu Stu Holden, Melissa Ortiz, Sacha Klestan, Brad Guzan, Bob Bradley, and Jameis Winston, all reacting to Spain's 1-0 win over Argentina. But it was Zlatan and Henry's line, "Football won today," that stuck. Then there's Rio Ferdinand. He didn't wait for a studio camera. He went straight to social media, and he landed on the exact same wording Kroos had used. "Football's the winner," Ferdinand posted, tagging the World Cup hashtags directly under the final whistle. 3 men, 3 different countries, 3 different platforms, X, Fox Sports, and a courtside tweet, same sentence, near enough word for word, "Football won." That's not a coincidence anymore at that point. That's a pattern. And it's worth sitting with why so many people who've actually played the sport at the highest level all reached for the same phrase. Within minutes of each other, it wasn't really about Spain lifting a trophy. It was about how Argentina had tried to stop them from doing it. Ferdinand didn't stop at one tweet either. He kept posting through the night, pointing out the scale of what Spain's young players had just done. He noted that Lamine Yamal had now won a World Cup, the Euros, for Spain, and 2 league titles for Barcelona, while Pau Kubasi had won a World Cup and 2 league titles, both of them only 19 years old, adding that the future is bright for Spanish football. That's not a dig at Argentina directly, but it's the same underlying message. As Kroos and Zlatan, Spain didn't just win a game, they won it. The way they'd been trying to win everything for 2 decades. So that's the hook. Within an hour of the final whistle, at MetLife Stadium, 3 of the most respected voices in the sport had all said, in almost identical language, that football had won, not Spain. football. And the pointed part of that phrase is what it leaves out, Argentina. To understand why that phrase landed the way it did, you have to go back to what actually happened over 120 minutes in New Jersey. Because Kroos, Zlatan and Henry weren't reacting to a scoreline in a vacuum. They were reacting to a specific kind of game, one that had built up over the whole tournament and one that finally broke a certain way in extra time. Let's set the scene properly. Ferran Torres' goal early in the second period of extra time was enough, as Spain secured their second World Cup with a 1-0 win at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. The Barcelona forward had side-footed the ball home after Nico Williams' header fell to him following Pedro Porro's cross. That's the moment. But the story of the game isn't really about that one goal. It's about everything that happened or didn't happen before it. And finished the game with a 20-2 shot differential. Read that again. 20 shots to 2 in a World Cup final. The newly crowned champions controlled 65% of possession, outshot Argentina by that 20-2 margin, 12-0 on goal. Had a 1.94 mark in expected goals compared to a paltry 0.22 for Argentina, and had 9 corners compared to just 4 for their opponents. An expected goals number under 0.25 in a World Cup final tells you almost everything. Argentina barely created anything, and this was against a team that had gone through the entire tournament without really being troubled either. Spain, already the reigning European champions, crowned a tournament that saw them concede a single goal in 8 matches against Belgium in the quarterfinals. So how did Argentina even survive as long as they did? Their goalkeeper. Argentina's goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez made several critical saves to thwart attempts by Dani Olmo, Ferran Torres and Pau Kubasi. Without him, this isn't a close game at all, it's a rout, well before extra time. But Martinez couldn't do it alone forever. Before the winner, it had been Spain with the better chances, controlling possession and forcing a number of choice saves from Martinez, including a superb stop from a Williams shot at the start of extra time. Spain kept knocking. Eventually the door gave. There's also the matter of the man sent off. Ferran Torres struck the decisive winner in the 106th minute. Capitalizing shortly after, Enzo Fernandez was sent off for a second bookable offence. 10. Men against Spain's relentless possession game in extra time is about as bad a position as you can be in. Enzo Fernandez was flashed a red card in stoppage time after collecting 2 yellows. That red card wasn't some isolated incident either, it fit a pattern that had built up across the whole tournament. The match itself was rather gritty and aggressive, seeing a total of 46 fouls committed, 25 from Argentina. That's more than half the fouls in the match coming from one side, and Argentina's whole approach through the knockout rounds had leaned defensive rather than expansive. They were attempting a second World Cup in a row for captain Lionel Messi, who was playing on the World Cup stage for the final time. But getting there had meant leaning on late drama rather than control. Accommodating Messi's 39-year-old legs had served them well during this World Cup, as he proved decisive in late comebacks against Egypt and England. Comebacks work until they don't. In the final, there was no third act, Messi moment. Messi was Argentina's driving force during the World Cup, scoring 8 goals and adding 4 assists, an impressive showing, especially considering he's 39. But in the final itself, he barely got a sniff. Argentina became the first team in World Cup final history to fail to register a single shot across 90 minutes of normal time, finally managing their first attempt of the match, a blocked volley from Messi in the 117th minute of extra time. 1 shot, 1 blocked volley. That's the entire attacking output from arguably the greatest player of his generation in what was almost certainly his final World Cup match. It's a brutal way for a legendary run to hit its ceiling. ESPN's own match report didn't sugarcoat what kind of final this actually was to watch. It was a hard watch for much of the time, and arguably the worst World Cup final in living memory. But Spain held their nerve and beat Argentina through sheer persistence and belief that their superior quality would win in the end. And the same report made a point that echoes exactly what Kroos was saying on X. It was a victory for control over chaos, since Spain dominated possession in every game they played, and Argentina couldn't get close to the European champions by fair means, so they attempted to drag them down by less savory methods. That's the sports writing version of football. One, different words. Same idea. By full time, the numbers told the whole story on their own. By the end, Spain had registered 20 shots compared to 2 by Argentina, with 12 on target and none by the outgoing world champions, none ending the trophy. So when Kroos said Argentina finished the game without a single shot on target, when Zlatan talked about Argentina's lack of offensive production, when Henry backed him up, none of that came from nowhere. It came directly from a stat line. That's almost unprecedented at this stage of the tournament. And it's worth remembering what Spain had already built heading into this match. The final win meant Spain were now reigning champions of the World Cup and the UEFA European Championship, which they'd won in 2024, having also won the 2008 Euro before, winning the World Cup in 2010. This wasn't a surprise. Package pulling off an upset. This was a program that had been building the same identity for nearly 2 decades, finally stacking another trophy on top of the pile. That's the game. Total control from Spain, statistical humiliation for Argentina's attack, and a red card that turned a tight game into a men versus boys final 20 minutes. But the football wasn't actually the part that made headlines. The next morning, what happened after the final whistle did. Here's where the story turns. The moment the referee blew for full time, things went sideways fast. Just seconds after Spain had been confirmed as champion, Argentina defender Nahuel Molina was seen slapping Spain. Star midfielder Rodri on the arm as he ran off the bench to celebrate with his teammates. That was the spark. From there it escalated quickly. Following the whistle, Rodri appeared to approach Molina, causing the fullback to square up to him. Before Eric Garcia promptly broke things up by pushing Molina away, while Paredes joined in with the tangle, pushing Garcia away by the neck. Paredes, alongside Thiago Almada, then wrestled Gavi to the floor, as several punches were thrown and arms flailed before players and staff from both sides swarmed in to separate them. Argentina's Paredes was even flashed a red card after particularly vicious fights with Spain's Gavi and Eric Garcia, in which he kicked, slapped, and shoved them to the ground, even grabbing Garcia's neck at one point. The pundits didn't wait long to weigh in either, and this is where you start hearing more than just 3 voices. On British TV, Joe Hart put it blunt-ended, as the scenes after the final whistle soured Spain's deserved victory, with former England goalkeeper Joe Hart labeling Argentina's behaviour disgusting. But Hart also carved out one exception. Hart said there was one man on the pitch who did have class, and that was Lionel Messi, who shook hands with every one of those Spanish players. Gary Neville was just as sharp on ITV. It's a disgrace. Neville said, "I love the competitiveness of the Argentines, fighting and scrapping for their lives. Messi has propped them up, but it's been a disgrace the last few games." Alan Shearer on the BBC zeroed in on Paredes specifically. Paredes threw 2 or 3 haymakers into someone's face. He went for them, Shearer said. There is no place or space for that. And Wayne Rooney made the point that this wasn't some one-off. Does it surprise you? It doesn't surprise me. Rooney said, "We've seen this with Argentina before. It's just not the reaction you want. We've seen some of the reaction after knocking England out in the last round." That reference matters because Argentina's discipline problems didn't start in the final. Argentina were previously criticized for their aggressive behavior during their 2-1 semi-final win over England, after which players unveiled a banner claiming sovereignty of the Falklands Islands. So by the time the final whistle blew against Spain, there was already a pattern for pundits to point back to. So now you've got 4 TV names: Hart, Neville, Shearer, Rooney, plus Kroos, Zlatan and Henry. all landing on some version of the same conclusion. That's 7 separate named voices across 2 continents and multiple networks, all pointing the same direction within 24 hours of the final whistle. Messi himself stood apart from all of it. While teammates were swinging, Messi was shown to watch the mayhem unfold from the other side of the pitch, impassively looking on with his hands on his hips. He didn't get involved. He shook hands. Then, according to multiple reports, the tears rolled down Lionel Messi's face as he watched the Argentina fans following defeat to Spain. There was one more moment that added to the story. This one away from the pitch, entirely during the medal ceremony. Argentina centre-back Christian Romero snubbed Donald Trump's handshake during the presentation of the runners-up medals. Romero had started the match at the heart of the Argentine defence, alongside Lisandro Martinez, but was subbed off at the 70-minute mark and still made his mark after that by snubbing the US president's handshake. Argentina's own manager tried to frame the loss with some grace, even while the fight was still being broken up around him. "We are gracious in victory and defeat," a tearful Lionel Scaloni told reporters after the loss. "We've shown that we know how to lose." They were odd words considering the brawl that broke out on the pitch shortly after the affair, a fight that Scaloni himself tried to break up. That's the uncomfortable contradiction sitting at the center of this whole story. The manager talking about grace in defeat, while his own players were pulling each other off the ground, by the collar 30 yards away. And it's exactly that contradiction that gave Kroos, Zlatan, Henry, and every pundit who followed them their opening. It wasn't just that Argentina lost, it's how the loss looked in its final seconds. While Argentina was dealing with red cards and shoving matches, Spain's side of the pitch turned into a celebration that pulled in names from well outside football entirely. Start with the numbers, because Spain's achievement here goes beyond one trophy. The win meant Spain were now reigning champions of both the World Cup and the UEFA European Championship, which they'd won in 2024, having also won the 2008 Euro before winning the World Cup in 2010, per ASPN research. This marked only the 3rd time the reigning Euro champion also won the next World Cup, alongside 2008-10 Spain and 1972-74 West Germany. Individually, the trophy cabinet got stacked fast for a couple of very young players. Lamine Yamal, at 19, became the youngest player to win the European Championship and the FIFA World Cup. Unai Simon's scripted history by keeping the most clean sheets in a single FIFA World Cup with 7. Spain captain Rodri won the Golden Ball, and Barcelona defender Pau Kubasi was named the young player of the tournament. Spain's women's team had already claimed their own world title, which made the men's win land even bigger. Spain became the first nation to have both its men's and women's soccer teams, as reigning World Cup champions simultaneously. Now, the reactions. This is where the celebration stopped being just a football story. Notable names from around the sports world and beyond chimed in to congratulate Spain, including 2 Spanish tennis greats, Carlos Alcaraz, who posted "Vamos España," and Rafael Nadal. Basketball got involved too. Manu Ginobili posted his own congratulations, calling it a most deserved world champion, and thanking the Argentina squad for an epic tournament, telling fans to celebrate them as they deserve. That's an Argentine legend from a completely different sport, still finding room to salute his own country's run even in defeat, while the football pundits down the hall were tearing into the team's conduct. Music got a word in as well. Liam Gallagher posted simply that the best team won, congratulating Spain. Back inside Spanish football itself, the old guard came out in force. David Villa took to Instagram with a picture alongside Ferran Torres, writing that he'd been convinced it would be him, congratulating the champions and thanking them, saying they deserved it. Carlos Puyol and Iker Casillas also posted on social media to congratulate the Spanish team. Joan Capdevila reacted with 2 stars, and former Manchester United goalkeeper David De Gea also shared his own comment on the win. Real Madrid and Barcelona's official channels lit up too, congratulating their own players directly. Cucurella, Fabian, Rodri, and the rest of the squad each got individual shout-outs from their clubs the moment the trophy was lifted. Then there was the broadcast booth itself, which turned into its own small piece of theatre. Zlatan Ibrahimovic announced after the final that he will not return to Fox, bidding the network goodbye and stressing that he will not cover future World Cups, saying, "And this is also my farewell to the studio." He went further on air. "This was the first and last time for me," Ibrahimovic said. "So, take care everybody." It wasn't just Zlatan clocking out. After Thierry Henry thanked a number of people associated with the broadcast as part of his final send-off, it was Ibrahimovic's turn, and the Swedish legend announced that his broadcasting opportunity with Fox for the World Cup was his first and final foray into being in front of the camera, leading Henry and Alexi Lalas to give him firm handshakes. Even the typically unshakable presenter got caught up in the moment. As they were saying their goodbyes during the final broadcast, even host Rebecca Lowe almost burst into tears as she thanked Henry, Ibrahimovic and Lalas for an unforgettable month of football. So by the time the confetti settled, you had tennis players, a basketball legend, a rock star, a full generation of retired Spanish internationals, and the Fox broadcast team all publicly marking the moment. On top of Kroos, Zlatan and Henry's pointed remarks about how the final had actually been won. Spain's celebration wasn't contained to the pitch. It spilled into every corner of global sport within hours. And underneath all of that noise sat one quieter figure who wasn't celebrating at all, and whose story is where this really has to end. Strip away the tweets, the broadcast farewells, the tennis stars weighing in, and you're left with a 39-year-old man sitting on the turf of MetLife Stadium, coming to terms with what might have just been his last World Cup match. Messi talked to reporters afterward, and there was no anger in it. "I feel sad, but I'm aware that we played our hearts out," Messi said. "They were better, to be honest. We lost the game, and we accept that. That doesn't mean that we will forget everything we've done so far. So I'd like to thank my people, my players, and the country." That's not a man arguing with the scoreline. That's a man accepting it. And when you look at his broader body of work with the national team, it's easy to see why he could say it without bitterness. If this was indeed his final hurrah, his Argentina career has been legendary. 3 straight World Cup finals, a World Cup title in 2022, 2 Copa America crowns. Scaloni echoed the same tone, worn down but not resentful. "I feel sadness, but knowing that we left everything out there," Scaloni told reporters. "I have a lot of things to say about how we got here, but it's not worth it. I want to thank these guys eternally for giving us another World Cup final and for competing until the end. They were better. That's the truth. But I'll cherish on to an enormous memory of this group and what they've done, of what it's worth to get this far." There's a strange symmetry in Argentina's history that this loss now completes. Argentina have now finished as runners-up at the World Cup for the 4th time, also in 1930, 1990 and 2014, the joint most of any side along with Germany. 4 finals lost. That's not a fluke. That's a nation that keeps getting to the very last step and keeps finding a way to fall short of it. What happens to Messi from here is still an open question. It remains to be seen whether this was Messi's final game in an Argentina jersey. He had previously said the 2022 World Cup would be his last before becoming the first man to play in 6 World Cups, and Scaloni said he hadn't yet spoken with him about whether the 8-time Ballon d'Or winner would continue to play for Argentina. He didn't linger to talk about it either way in the immediate aftermath. Messi, along with the rest of the Argentina players, did not stop to speak to reporters as they exited MetLife Stadium. Whatever conversation about his future needs to happen, it hadn't happened yet, at least not publicly. What's clear is how much the crowd still wanted a different ending. The overwhelming majority in the crowd of 80,663 was rooting for a recoronation of Messi as a 2-time champion. They didn't get it. And in the moments right after the loss was confirmed, Messi scored 8 goals in an incredible tournament, and the Argentina fans chanted his name as Spain's Rodri collected the Player of Tournament award, before Messi led his teammates to collect their runners-up medals. Individually, he didn't even walk away with the tournament's top-scoring honor. France's Mbappe won the Golden Boot ahead of Messi. No trophy, no top-scorer medal, no fairy tale final chapter, just a runners-up medal and a walk off the pitch in silence. That's the part that got lost a little in all the noise from Kroos. From Zlatan and Henry on Fox, from Ferdinand's tweet, from Alcaraz and Nadal and Ginobili and Gallagher, from Puyol and Casillas and Villa. Every one of those reactions was really about Spain, about a program that had now stacked a World Cup on top of a European Championship, about a generation of teenagers who'd already won more by 19 than most players manage in a career. But on the other side of that celebration was a 39-year-old walking off a World Cup pitch for what may be the last time, a manager talking about grace in a night that included a brawl, and a nation staring at a fourth runners-up finish that matches the most heartbreaking record in the tournament's history. Football won that night. If you go by what Kroos said, what Zlatan and Henry backed up on air, what Ferdinand echoed within minutes, the stats back every word of it up: 20 shots to 2, 65% of the ball. A keeper standing on his head just to keep the margin at 1. But somewhere underneath the trophy lift and the broadcast farewells and the flood of congratulations, from every corner of sport, there was a quieter story still playing out. One about a team that fought its way to one more final and a captain who now has to decide if he's